Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Conversationalist. My name is Sophie Barron, founder and CEO, and we are thrilled to bring you an awesome conversation today surrounding immense impact that has been made this past year in the healthcare space. For those of you who are new to the Conversationalist, we are on a journey to unify the world one Gen Z voice at a time. So thank you for being a part of our mission today to break open echo chambers, amplify voices, and unify the world. We all know that this has been a tumultuous past year for the healthcare field with the COVID-19 pandemic. There have been so many lives lost. But at the end of the day, there have been incredible frontline workers and especially Gen Zers in this space who have been making strides and creating their own paths to make an impact and better the world for all. So today is really dedicated to honoring those Gen Zers. And of course, our distinguished guest this afternoon, our celebrity honoree in the healthcare space, Dr. Oz. So without further ado, please remember to pop into the live chat, tell us you're here, join the conversation with us. And I am now going to bring our distinguished guest on stage. So without further ado, we are honored to introduce our 2020-2021 Celebrity List Honoree for the healthcare field. Throughout his work, he has been keeping us updated about the COVID-19 pandemic, amplifying the voices of others, initiating hard conversations that could and have saved lives. He has been breaking open echo chambers with facts through his OzTube platform, and of course, unifying the world with real solutions. He is a cardiothoracic surgeon who you may know as the Emmy award-winning host of the Dr. Oz Show. So without further ado, it is my distinguished honor to introduce Dr. Oz.
Hey, Sophie, congratulations to all the Gen Zers. I appreciate being with you.
Dr. Oz, thank you so much for being with us today. You are an inspiration to our entire generation. So thank you for your time. I'm so excited to ask you a couple of questions while you're with us today. And as I just mentioned, and we all know, the pandemic has really been life-changing for so many across the world. But what has been so wonderful has been watching your leadership throughout this hard time. You have been providing resources, starting significant conversations, and helping people learn how to navigate this new normal. So, Dr. Oz, I'd love to know, how has this pandemic impacted your career? And did you ever expect something like this would happen over the course of your career?
Didn't expect over my course of my life that I would see anything like what has happened with the COVID-19 pandemic. We talked a lot about it. I remember doing a show back in 2010. This is right after I graduated from Oprah University, because I spent the first 7 years of my life making shows with Oprah. But we had the movie called Contagion on. And Contagion, if you haven't seen it, it's worth revisiting. It eerily forecasts what was going on when this pandemic started as well. And the man who was the scientist behind that, Ian Lipkin, came on my show. He's on the faculty at Columbia with me. But we also had as many real life equivalents of the actors in the movie as we could find to sort of talk about whether this could really happen. And turns out it could have happened, and it did happen, which is what we witnessed this decade. Because as it transpired, we had outbreaks like MERS and other bad viruses in other parts of the world. None of them came to this country, which is why we were unprepared, certainly compared to some of our neighbors in other parts of Asia and Africa who had been exposed to it already. So they were able to take precautions more rapidly than we were. It wasn't quite so foreign. But I think it's broken apart some of the relationships that we've had, the assumptions we had made. And that'll be good in some ways and bad in other ways. A lot of it depends on how we cope.
I hear you. It's definitely eerie thinking about a few things that might have predicted the time we're in now, but thank you so much for being a trailblazer and giving people so much hope during this time. And Dr. Oz, I know you mentioned a little bit about your work at Columbia, and you have such an impressive healthcare resume, from your Ivy League education to being a cardiothoracic surgeon, a professor at Columbia, a TV personality, journalist, author, and the list goes on and on. What do you think the future of healthcare looks like now that Gen Z will start emerging into the medical profession?
The field is as bright as it's ever been. I actually have a program that we've launched on the show over the last year called #MoreBlackDoctors. And this campaign is about getting all folks in different walks of life to think about medicine as a profession, because we don't have a lot of parts of the population thinking about medicine. So you end up with people who could have been great nurses or doctors or respiratory technicians or hospital administrators, never considering the job, even though it's beautifully paid, You can't outsource it. Most of it needs to be done domestically because that's where you take care of people. It's a field that continues to grow in importance, but it's also financially a safe place to be. Because as my dad told me when I was a kid growing up, even in the top of an abandoned shed in a mountaintop, you still need doctors. So you always feel of use. And I got to say, one of the best feelings of all is when one of the kids gets sick and calls me in the middle of the night, I have an answer for them. So it makes me, but my Gen Z kids will talk to me. And sometimes you lose that connection if you don't have something to offer.
That's awesome. I'm definitely hopeful as well. It's really awesome hearing your reassurance about the future of healthcare, especially with the diversity and inclusion in healthcare. So thank you for sharing. Our mission at the Conversationalist is to unify the world. What is your advice about how we can better work together as a peoplehood, as a humanity, to stop the spread of COVID-19?
Well, we are the safety net for each other. I was looking at an interesting book that was written about 700 years ago about a pandemic that was going on at the time, and social distancing was actually what they figured out to be effective. And so we have much that we can do, and I'm not going to take a lot of your time walking through the science of it. That's sort of self-evident. But the fact that we start to develop different perspectives on what to do and can't argue or discuss those, come to a mutual agreement, that's the bigger risk. Because I think people, when you get to know them, will listen to each other. You look in each other's eyes. We're hardwired to pay attention to each other. We hear voices, we see faces, we process information. Most of our brain is there for that very reason. You can go hunting with a brain the size of a walnut. You don't need this big prefrontal cortex. But if we use that prefrontal cortex to connect with each other, we begin to find paths to safety and security. And one of the damaging elements of the management of COVID-19 was we had to isolate each other. And that has cost a lot of people their lives. The Surgeon General was just on the show, and he said that the costs of social isolation, of the COVID lockdowns, of what we've had to do to stay safe from the virus, will cause more deaths than the virus itself will cause. And that's shocking to hear. But when I hear about deaths of despair and the opiate addictions and spousal abuse and suicides as they go up, you begin to realize how important we are to each other. So that's one of the big takeaways from this. What are we going to do to make sure that we share each other's values? Because you generally do. That we behave based on those values. That's what ethical behavior is about. And how do you say the right thing without being fearful that people are going to cancel you because they may not agree with you? And I think Gen Zs can lead that discussion by being more compassionate towards each other, being open to each other's arguments, even if you don't agree with them, so that you can actually convince people that you're right or have them convince you, because that's what liberal thought has always been about. Talk about it so you can get smarter. Bad ideas get pushed to the side, good ideas get elevated, and we all benefit.
What an incredible call to action. I believe that's a hallmark of Generation Z, being able to open up that discussion. And thank you, Dr. Oz. Before you leave us today, there are so many Gen Zers in our community who aspire to be more like you. We have some incredible Gen Zers backstage right now. What advice do you have for Generation Z as we enter 2021 and into the future regarding coming together, building a more inclusive world, and having more of these important conversations?
Well, I thought about a few tips. So first is find a mentor, find groups that are doing what you're doing and copy them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Just by the fact that you're doing it at a different time with different people will make it different enough. But make sure that you identify best practices and copy them. Number two, pick the people on your bus carefully. Make sure you got people who are like-minded, who are passionate, who are going to fight for what they think is right, just as much as you'll fight for that same goal. So that way, even if you're arguing here and there, you're both heading in the right direction. And finally, develop a system for yourself in your personal lives. Get up in the morning at the same time, develop a morning, stretch, workout, yoga practice, whatever you end up doing, eat the same things. Develop a system that serves you well so that you're not exhausted by the time the middle of the day comes. That gives you more energy to work throughout the day so you can make smart decisions, wise decisions, and work hard at the same time.
That is incredible advice. Dr. Oz, thank you for being our 2020 Healthcare Honoree. We can't wait to see all of the amazing work you do in 2021. It's been an honor speaking with you today.
God bless you. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Wow. Dr. Oz is such an inspiration. I hope you are all taking notes similarly to how I was taking mental notes about his advice. Wow. What a stand-up guy. What an honor to speak with him. And what a day. I'm just taking it all in, and I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. And now we are going to move on to the next portion of our awards panel this afternoon. And I am so beyond excited to introduce our Gen Z honorees for the healthcare space. So I'm going to introduce our Gen Z honorees one by one and bring them on stage and learn a little bit more about their work. But again, before we dive in, please join the conversation with us in the live chat. I see so many awesome comments. Thank you all for being here today. Liza, Connor, Chloe, Ellen, Kirsten, Laura. Wow, so many incredible people joining us from the live chat. This is just as much a conversation for all of us as it is between us and the panelists. So without further ado, I'm going to begin introducing our Gen Zers so we can keep the conversation going. So here we go. So starting us off this afternoon, I would like to introduce a student, healthcare policy fellow, and the VP of communications at Gen Z GOP. She had a medical emergency turned near-death experience her sophomore year of college that made healthcare truly personal for her. This made her more inspired by medical innovation and development, which further led to her passion of bettering our healthcare system. Her work is focused on advocating for value-based healthcare. She presents alternative ideas to tackling healthcare reform through a conservative lens, and she is a wonderful member of our TC community. So welcome to the stage, Elle Kalish. Hi, Elle.
Hi, Sophie.
So happy you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me, seriously.
It's our honor. I love every time you're a part of our panels and with us in Geneva. Your energy is contagious.
Thank you.
Kick us off today. Elle, I would love to know, between your personal experience being a patient in the healthcare system and the extensive research you've done on healthcare legislation and reform, can you tell us what you think are some strengths and weaknesses in our healthcare system? And how does value-based healthcare help us make our system stronger?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of going to answer that last question and tie that in as we go on. So why I think that value-based care is really important is because right now in the United States healthcare system, how it works is if you go to the ER, so very much so like when I went to the ER, and you have a stomach ache, and if you leave the ER and you have a stomach ache versus if they cured your stomach ache, you still pay the same price for the entirety of the care that you were receiving. But on one hand, your problem was solved, and on the other hand, it wasn't. So why is that the same cost? And so that's something that I really struggled with too, trying to physically understand healthcare. And so that is one of the downsides of our current healthcare system is that we use this very specific fee-for-service model that is honestly really outdated. And so by transforming our healthcare system and transferring over to something like value-based care, what that does, it puts the point of reimbursement, so how you're paying for your healthcare, at how it helps you. So you pay for your prescriptions based on the better quality of life you have. You pay for an ER visit based on whether or not it does is it's more affordable, but it also allows the patient to be the center of care and not just necessarily money. And right now, money is the center of our healthcare space. And so, there's just minor changes that we can make, such as like the point of reimbursement that really takes the human being and brings it back into healthcare, because without human beings are what make healthcare run. And without having that be the focus, we end up spending our time talking about things that don't actually help. And so things like value-based care and alternative reimbursement are really helpful to kind of lead us down that path.
That's awesome. Elle, thank you for sharing. These are things that I wish I knew more about. So thank you for educating not only myself, but everyone here with us today about your passions within the healthcare space. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more, but we're going to keep introducing the rest of the honorees. So hang tight and we'll bring you back on in a few.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, Elle is amazing, and I am so excited to continue on in introducing our phenomenal honorees today. So our next honoree also got involved in the healthcare space after personally experiencing how the healthcare system impacted her firsthand. At the age of 13, this honoree had heart surgery, and while in the hospital, she saw many scared children and their families, and all she wanted to do was give them a big hug. So her mission Hugs was born. As a founder, author, youth philanthropist, and youth health advocate, she is passionate about improving the quality of life for hospitalized children, and she is determined to make a difference one hug at a time. Without further ado, welcome to the stage, Madison Torrey. Hi, Madison.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's so wonderful to speak with you today. I would love to know, we just spoke a little bit about your personal mission, and a lot of your work has been inspired by your own journey in the healthcare system. How were you able to find your voice, and how are you now helping other young people to do the same?
Well, so through my journey, I saw all the scared kids and the families in the hospital. I saw how kids were no longer having their childhoods. Their childhoods were being replaced with things like needles and IVs and long nights away from their family. I wanted to be able to reconnect and help the healthcare system focus on the whole person itself instead of just the specific diagnosis and treatments. Through this, I hope to inspire other youth to have their voice and advocate for themselves in the hospital to get their medical needs taken care of, their voices listened to, and their bodies taken care of.
Madison, that's awesome. I mean, can you just imagine if our whole world operated that way and we really honored our full selves? It's definitely resonating in the healthcare space, but I think that piece of advice that's a part of your personal mission resonates with so many other spaces of the world. So thank you for sharing your work with us. I am so excited to continue the conversation after we introduce your fellow honorees. Awesome. Thank you, Madison. See you in a bit. Oh, this is so fun. I want to dive in further, but let's keep the conversation going. Our next honoree that I'm excited to introduce today is none other than Mason Aldridge. Mason uses his voice to advocate for rural healthcare and uses his platform to improve and educate others by writing proposals, legislation, and sharing social media posts about healthcare and rural healthcare. His go-to pump-up song is I Like It by Cardi B, and he lives by the words that positivity is contagious. Mason grew up in rural Alabama, and the people around him have been impacted by rural healthcare. This made him want to improve the local system so other people can live happier and healthier lives. Without further ado, welcome to the stage, Mason Aldridge. Hey, Mason. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Hey, how are you?
Hello, welcome to the Conversationalist. So happy you're with us today. Mason, you clearly have had experience with the rural healthcare system. Why do you think the healthcare received in rural areas is so different? And what are some of the steps you think that we can take to change that discrepancy?
Yeah, so geographically, if we look at rural areas, we're farther from healthcare resources on average. After doing some research, urban areas, you're about 4.4 miles from the local hospital, but in a rural area, you're about 10.5 miles away. So just having that distance in between, along with an increased poverty rate and decreased income, it really just adds into the fact that rural people cannot get care that they need. A lot of times too, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, our hospitals aren't sufficiently staffed or even have the supplies that they need in order to take care of patients. So we have to send them away. A lot of my research has been based here in Alabama, and I saw an article the other day where we're actually shipping some of our patients to other states simply because we can't handle how many people we're getting right now.
Wow. And what do you think we can do as a generation to step up to the plate?
Mm-hmm. One thing I think we can really do is to spark conversation about rural health, because I think rural health is really the backbone of our country. If you look at the landmass of the United States, we're a humongous country, and a lot of it is rural. There's over 60 million rural Americans. And so if we just start that conversation, spark a change, and increase the amount of people that want to go into rural healthcare, we can make a difference.
I love that answer, Mason. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we will chat more in a few.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh, I am feeling so inspired already. Let's keep it going. I am so excited to introduce our next honoree, Valerie Guevara. Valerie has done a lot of work for healthcare at only age 16. Her word to describe Gen Z is game changers, and that is exactly what she is. She is the founder of Teen Health 101, and she leads 100 plus team members in creating all types of content, from podcasts to articles to graphics and more, in order to educate our youth on important health topics. She uses her voice for good by utilizing online resources and her own knowledge to help educate. It is my honor to bring to the stage Valerie Guevara. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Sophie.
How are you?
I'm great.
Great. I'm so happy you're with us today. I'm excited to learn more about your platform, Teen Health 101. So the mission of your platform is really to combat the spread of misinformation and misleading facts and become a platform for young people to find simple and accurate health information. What was the inspiration behind this mission of yours, and why do you think it's important for young people to have this resource?
So I kind of went through a whole personal fitness journey from like maybe beginning of the year into like this year. And so as I was kind of like looking for online resources, obviously since we were all confined to our houses, I kind of like struggled with actually finding information that I could use or like that was actually kind of accurate or didn't have like a sprinkle of maybe like sponsored content or use this, like, oh, they paid me to like advertise for them. So it was kind of like really disheartening that I really struggled to find information about kind of health like that actually pertains to the youth. So I thought, why don't I actually make this platform? I know especially on TikTok you find all these like kind of 15-second clips of, oh yeah, you do this, you can like lose weight. So I really wanted to combat like that kind of I guess the way that TikTok works by creating all types of content through my platform.
That's awesome, Valerie. I love following your work with Teen Health 101, and I can't wait to keep the conversations going. Thank you for being with us today. Awesome. We'll talk to you more in a bit. Thanks, Valerie. She's amazing. If you're not following the work of any of our honorees today, please do so right now. More information about our honorees are in the YouTube description and on our Instagram account at The Conversationalist. So next up, our next honoree for today is none other than Zayn Patel. Zayn is the founder of For the Menstruator. He is on a life mission to serve and impact 10 million lives, and we have no doubt that he will. His work aims to create a world of menstrual equity by making menstrual hygiene easily accessible on a global scale and expanding his work to target a range of issues faced by women. Not to mention, he lives by the words, "The energy is in the purpose, not the plan." And I couldn't have said it better myself. So welcome to the stage, Zayn Patel. Hey, Zayn.
Hi, thank you so much.
It's so great to finally meet you. I feel like we've been corresponding so much via DM. It's great to see your face.
Likewise.
Awesome. So today, Zayn, I would love to know, For the Menstruator started as a project for school. What inspired you to focus on menstrual equity, and why is this such an important cause for all genders to work towards?
So my journey actually started in the summer of 2017. I actually also went through a personal experience of trauma where I was diagnosed with dengue fever. And that led me to turn my depression that I was going through into bipolar disorder. So I went through this phase of 3 weeks in which I had no control over myself. I was acting hypersexual and hyperactive. And after going through that experience, waking up on my bed, I realized that I could have lost everything. I could have been in that situation for the rest of my life. And that inspired me to sort of go in this journey of finding my purpose. And that is why I talk a lot about my purpose. And through that journey, I've sort of, I felt like I'm put into this world to make an impact. So coincidentally, right after that, I had an opportunity to start up a school project, and I could do anything of my choice. And I came across a documentary on Al Jazeera named India's Menstruation Man. That was the first time I actually learned about periods and menstruation, because I live in a community where, unfortunately, menstruation is so stigmatized and it's seen as a taboo. So after watching that documentary, I had a conversation with my mom, and I found out that when she was small also, she didn't have proper access, and the facts suggested that over 500 million menstruators around the world don't have access to products. What this means is that they use old rags, cloth, leaves, blankets, some of the most unsanitary material when they're on their period. That's an average of 1 in 10 menstruators. So just going through all that research sort of inspired me to do something about it in my community. And for my school project initially in 2017, I helped around 22 menstruators. But over the 4 years, I've been on this journey where we've supported over 8,500 menstruators. And we have this global team of over 160 people on my team. And it's honestly been such an amazing journey. To answer your second question of why it's so important for all genders to sort of be part of this, I think menstruation is not a male issue or a female issue, rather it's a human issue. If you think about it, none of us would even be alive if it wasn't for the reproductive and menstrual cycle. So I honestly think this is something that we all have to be involved in one way or the other, be it through conversations, be it through starting up a small thing in a community, or just learning more about it. I think that's really important. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's amazing. And Zayn, thank you for being vulnerable. I'm so sorry that you experienced some of those things in your past. And it's just remarkable sitting here being able to hear how you've transformed that and channeled that into such a positive platform. So thank you for the work that you do and for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So we'll hear from you a little bit more in a bit. Awesome. Thanks, Zayn. All right. So next up on our honoree list for today is the amazing Patrick Bozzi. Patrick is the founder and president of the Society of First Generation Pre-Health Students, and he's from San Diego, California. His advice for Gen Z is to find a solution and work hard to resolve it. For those who struggle to speak up, actions always speak louder than words, and we wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment. He created a community of students across the United States who are the first in their family to pursue a healthcare profession. He leads them towards working together in order to reach a common goal. He's also hosted many prestigious healthcare workers to share their stories and answer any questions the members are not able to ask elsewhere. So I'm excited to welcome our next honoree to the stage, Patrick Bozzi. Hey, Patrick.
Hi, Sophie. So honored to be here. Thank you so much.
So great to finally meet you. I'm so happy to have you here with us today, and thank you for the important work that you're doing for first-generation healthcare students. So, Patrick, I would love to know, why was it important for you to connect young healthcare professionals who are the first in their families to pursue this career? And also, I'd love to know, what impact have you seen since starting this journey?
So firstly, I decided to create this organization because I've seen so many students that are so bright, but didn't have the opportunity to use their intellect. So I created an organization that helped mentor and lead students to inspire them and to guide them to where they truly hope to be in the future. And it's so inspiring to see that so many students of mine that I've mentored across the whole United States are coming back to me and telling me that they're getting dental internships, medical school internships. They're getting in the process of going to medical school. And that's truly what we wanted, because even the most brightest person without an opportunity won't reach their true potential. And that's truly what inspired me, because as a son of two immigrants, I truly seen the disadvantage that we're at, because having family members that are in healthcare, they truly have the guidance that we didn't have. We're at a disadvantage that I use that as our advantage to inspire us and to work harder than everyone else, and to just to unite one another. And something I've seen that it's truly amazing, that I'm very excited about, that during Christmas time, we created a project called Hope for Iraqi Children. This project was created in San Diego with the help of many church leaders. We created a care package that was the size of a shoebox that was meant to just help give gifts to the kids in Iraq. But it started to become like a care package that basically provides like basic necessities, like a T-shirt on a children's back. And it's in the process right now. In 2 weeks, is being shipped out on a military cargo plane. So wow. I can't wait to receive the photos back, and I'm very excited.
Oh my gosh, Patrick, that's amazing. When you get the photos, share them with us as well. Share them in Geneva. We want to see.
I will.
And thank you for the work that you're doing to increase access to not only the healthcare field, but also the ability to have healthcare across all ages and all spectrums. So Patrick, thank you for your work. Awesome. So we'll hear from you a little bit more in a bit. Awesome. Talk soon. Thank you so much. So our next honoree for this afternoon is the amazing Zane Patel. Zane is a podcast host, social entrepreneur, and freelance motivator. He lives by the words, defy the odds, nothing is out of reach. It's about how bad you want it. He is currently consulting for an MIT startup called PathCheck. He truly represents the best of Gen Z through his work finding an innovative solution to the pandemic. He also wants to help other allergy-prone individuals and is working on a solution through La Nourriture. Last but certainly not least, our second to last, welcome the one and only Zayn Patel. Hi, Zayn, welcome.
Hey, Sophie, good to be here, and love the French too. Thank you for pronouncing the company name so eloquently.
correct me if I pronounced it incorrectly.
That was perfect.
Okay, amazing. I need to brush up on my French, but thank you for being here today. It's great to see you face to face. And I love that you are on a mission to positively impact 8 billion people. That is a lot of people. And much of your impact so far has been in the healthcare space. Why is healthcare a focus for you? And what do you hope to achieve this year and in the future?
Yeah, so just specifically within healthcare, I always heard from my parents, health, wealth, happiness. Those are the three things that are really the pillars of life. And so understanding from a healthcare perspective, that's really the main thing in terms of how we look at our lives, just from a more holistic perspective, right? What's the one thing that keeps us together and holds us together? And that is healthcare. And I think especially when you begin to take a look at it from this perspective of the pandemic or even other health disparities. I know Zayn mentioned menstrual health disparities. We also had mental health, so many different things that, again, allude back to our bodies and what we're feeling and just healthcare as a whole. And so I really wanted to tap into that, really ensure that everything that I was doing could come back to this central place of allowing people to be themselves, continue to live the lives that they want to without having to worry about these issues within healthcare. And I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be healthy. And I think obviously being able to be here today and be surrounded by these amazing people and seeing your smile and just the energy that you bring to the stage is really, really just grateful to be here, and just so thankful that I get to amplify the work and continue to provide opportunity for people and just a healthy life through some of the endeavors that I've been fortunate to pursue.
Thank you so much, Zayn. Thank you for your kind words. I can't wait to connect also through your podcast and all of the amazing projects you're working on, but thank you for all of the impact that you're making through all of your endeavors. Awesome, Zayn. We'll hear from you more, but thank you so much for being here. Awesome. We'll talk in a bit. All right. This is so much fun. I hope everyone is feeling as inspired as I am right now. I can barely contain myself. But last but certainly not least this afternoon, I am so excited to introduce our honoree, Melissa Golden. Our next honoree loves to talk about music, social justice, TV shows, books, and podcasts, and she has been forging her own path in the healthcare field. She is a campus ambassador at Gift of Life Marrow Registry, an international public marrow registry that finds life-saving matches for blood cancer, immune disorders, and sickle cell patients. Melissa runs operations on Vanderbilt's campus to add new registered donors to the marrow and stem cell registries. She recruits college-age students and Nashville residents to join the registry through running swab drives and information sessions. We're so happy she's with us today, and welcome to the stage, Melissa Golden. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So nice to virtually meet you. I would love to know, Melissa, through your incredible work, you've added, and this is a remarkable number, 541 new registered donors. That is insane. Why is this work so important? And how is this work helping in the fight for medical justice?
Yeah, so I think that something that is kind of unknown is that 1 in 200 Americans end up needing a stem cell or marrow transplant in their life. But interestingly enough, only 2% of Americans are actually on the marrow registry. And it's really something easy that we can all do. It doesn't require donating money, and it's really not that scary either. Actually, 80% of marrow and stem cell transplants are the same process as essentially donating blood. And the other 20% are usually for pediatric patients and are 24-hour recovery. So I just think that it's something that we really need to talk about, something that people need to dispel some of the myths that are common. And also, there's a big disparity in who are getting these marrow transplants. And it's because they're a lot related on ethnicity. And so interestingly enough, 75% of multiracial and African-American individuals can't find a match on the registry. 60% of Asian American patients cannot find a match on the registry. 55% of Latino patients can't find a match on the registry. But 98% of white patients can. And so it's really important that we expand the diversity on the registry and get everyone involved so that we can have more equity in healthcare.
Wow. Those were some impressive statistics, some important statistics. Thank you for sharing them with us. And also for sharing that, giving isn't as scary as it might seem. I always viewed giving bone marrow as a scary process, but seeing the impact that you've made just proves time and time again how important it is to give back to others. So thank you for the work that you're doing to curate that every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So Melissa, I'm going to keep you on screen so we can bring back all of your fellow honorees. But for everyone who's here with us right now in the live chat, we're seeing some awesome faces. Please continue the conversation with us. And if you are loving the conversations we're having today, or you're feeling inspired by one of our honorees, you can have a conversation with them right after this panel in our Gen Z community. So if you're not a member of our community yet on the Geneva app, join right now. All you have to do is text the word Unify to this number, 877-222-1119, and we will welcome you with open arms to join the conversation about healthcare and any topic under the sun that matters most to you. So, Melissa, I'm going to bring in your fellow honorees so we can continue the conversation. And before I do, Melissa, can you hear me? I see my computer is starting to break down. Is my audio clear? Okay, great. So computer may crash, who knows, classic early 2021, but I'm so excited to bring back your fellow honorees. So here we go. Hey, Zion, Mason, Patrick, Valerie, Zane, Elle, and Madison. Welcome back. First of all, how's everyone feeling? Nice. Love it. Love the thumbs up, some affirmation. Thank you for being here. I know I can speak on behalf of our entire team at TC that we feel so inspired by each and every one of you. You are doing such phenomenal work in the healthcare space, and it's truly our honor to be able to honor you. So thank you for being here. And without further ado, I would love to pose just a general question, and anyone can feel free to hop in, or you can message me in the private chat if you want to make an order. But really just would love to know, after hearing each of the passion projects and the organizations and the work that you're doing, what do you think Generation Z as a whole can do to better our healthcare system? I know it's a big question, but feel free to hop in.
Okay, I start. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that our generation can do to better our healthcare system is start talking about it. I think like a really big issue with Gen Z right now is like people don't understand how important healthcare is, especially with COVID-19. It's understanding like how many different layers they are. I mean, I think it's really cool. Everyone on this panel, like we're all in different kind of aspects of it, from policy to being a frontline worker themselves. And every single aspect of healthcare is vitally important for Gen Z. And we're going to inherit the system. And we should start talking about it now so we can inherit something that's better. Because, you know, obviously we have all this energy and all these resources to do it, but we don't want to have a bigger mess to clean up. And the only way that we can have a smaller mess to clean up is if Gen Z starts talking about it and starts getting engaged with it and just understanding how healthcare works in your life, because it's every single aspect of our lives.
It really is. Thank you, Elle. Anyone else have thoughts?
I think just tapping into what Elle said, it's a very personalized process, right? And so it's not the same for everybody. And there are so many different issues that actually come into play. And so really seeking resources, understanding what specific things are going on, what, you know, from a body perspective. And I think just tapping in that we are digital natives. And so we love to take some of our issues and put them on Google or put them in Reddit or even other online communities. And as opposed to just going through our doctor or parents, maybe some stronger sources who actually understand the issue a bit better. And so being able to seek those resources and then build credibility with those resources, where we can go ahead and begin to develop a relationship with our doctor and actually feel comfortable going through and going to the doctor's office every single time. And so I definitely think that's one quick thing from my standpoint.
I love that. And I think as digital natives, Generation Z, we do have an advantage, right? To being a bit more quick on our feet to solve a lot of these issues. So thank you for saying that, Zayn. Madison, what are your thoughts?
For me, to better the healthcare system for Gen Zs is we need to be vocal. From my experience in the hospital, it was very easy for medical professionals to get caught up in diagnosis and specific treatment without looking as me as a whole person. Since then, I've been trying to focus on emergency room staff, educating them, and advocacy in the hospital. It is so important for Gen Z to be vocal and have their medical needs known and to be part of their medical decisions. We need to focus on creating systemic change within the hospital by being part of boards, advocacy councils, and peer mentor programs to make our voices heard in the healthcare system.
That's awesome. I mean, you know me, that is something that I try to champion every day at TC, right? We have to use our voices for good. And I think this group is a really incredible showing of that. So thank you for adding that, Madison. Zion, what are your thoughts?
What I like to say is I usually go by the idea that in chaos comes opportunity. And I think our generation in this age and time that we are in, we have access to so much information, access to the best of technology and social media. So how do we use all of this in this age and time to sort of find this opportunity during this time of chaos? And also just, I feel like we undermine how much power we have as individuals. I know things like volunteering, things like just talking about it, starting conversations. We usually undermine the impact that we can have in our little small communities. And when we do that, if each and every young person could do something small, it usually adds up and then has exponential impact. So I think it's just important to think about what we can actually do on a personal level rather than always blaming healthcare workers or people on the front lines to do stuff.
I love that. I mean, if you see me snapping, I agree. We love snaps with the Conversationalist, but that was awesome. Does anyone else want to hop in?
Yeah, just going off of what he said, we live in a time that we're in a time of ask and we shall receive. For someone who keeps looking at what's the problem with healthcare, that's the first issue. We need to look at what we can help as an individual and then go off of that. There's so many times I've been hearing that people want to help, they want to help, but they're not doing anything about it. There's so many help groups out there that you should just ask, how can I help? What can I do? Do you need help? And there's so many opportunities out there, and that's definitely something that our generation needs to fix.
I love that, Patrick. Thank you. And I think oftentimes that starting point can happen at a local level. You know, sometimes we think that change needs to be ginormous on a national or global scale, and the first place to start is within your own community. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else before we move on to the next question?
I definitely I definitely agree. And I think one thing that kind of builds off of being vocal about it is also just educating yourself about it. Like it could just start with you just educating yourself, like through reading online or taking a free online course. Like through creating my platform, I've seen many similar organizations or other resources on like health and healthcare and different things. So really just educating yourself about it is just the first step in kind of bettering the healthcare system.
Love that, Valerie. Thank you. And just to throw in another question, I think something at the top of a lot of our minds, mine especially, when we think about healthcare is the COVID-19 pandemic. So similar question, but different. You know, we just talked about how we as a generation can come together to better our healthcare system. But what do you think we can do actively as young people right here, right now in 2021 to stop the spread of COVID-19? I think it's interesting to think about what would happen if Gen Z was in governmental positions, making these changes and these calls. What would you do if you had that power? And what do you think we can do to stop the spread?
So one thing that we're doing at the University of Alabama is as a social media ambassador for our student health and well-being is that we have people that are in our organization going around and they'll have like buttons on that say, hey, I have a mask if you need one or something like that. And we'll carry extra masks to hand out to people. And then we're also taking that time to educate people on the importance of social distancing and spending time away if you don't even feel good and really keeping up with your symptoms and where you've been. I know a lot of people right now, we're getting in out of the holiday season. They've been around a ton of people and they're traveling to get back to campuses and all the kinds of places. So it's really important to keep up where you've been, where you're going, and really just encourage each other to stay strong and check in with each other as we socially distance.
Love that. Thanks, Mason. Madison, what about you?
Well, I believe that right now, to stop the spread, it's all about a mindset change. I feel that right now it's very easy for people to say that it only seriously affects the old or the frail or the medically compromised. But what we need to remember is those somethings are someone's everything. They're someone's sister and brother, mom and dad, grandparents and friends. Like they're literally someone's whole life. And I believe that after this, the choice should be easy. If we wear masks and follow social distancing rules and stay home whenever is possible, because it's not human rights violation against you. It's to help save our healthcare system so that we don't become overwhelmed and it stays viable. It's really to protect all citizens and yourself.
Thank you, Madison. I think that's such an important perspective. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think something else Gen Z can really do to help unify us around stopping this pandemic is educating ourselves on the vaccine that's coming out and really stopping the spread of misinformation, especially things about it being under-researched, or just like really having information, like knowing, okay, this has been in the works for 10 years, and this is what happens when we overcome the bureaucracy that limits our healthcare system. So just really combating misinformation in our normal lives on social media, in our normal conversations, and just changing the conversation around things like that.
I love that. Education is the first place to start. Elle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that, at this point in COVID, considering we've all been in some sort of quarantine and stay-at-home orders for like 9 months now, that everyone is kind of getting what we refer to COVID fatigue. And it's that thing of, we just start to get used to what's going on, and we start to care less. But I actually got COVID almost a year ago. I got it when I was studying abroad in Spain in February, and I actually have permanent hearing damage from the time that I got COVID, and I lost about 50% hearing in my left ear and 20% of hearing in my right ear. And so, some of the things that I always like to do, I always like to say is, if you have a personal connection to COVID, if something has happened to you, to kind of speak out about it, especially amongst friends. Like, I always tell my friends, like, what's the point of going to a party right now if you go and then you can never hear what someone's trying to tell you clearly again? I can never tell if I have water in my ear when I'm showering, or when people are talking to me and all of that stuff. And it's this idea of these very small, insignificant things can have a really big impact. And we only know certain things about COVID right now. We don't know the long-term impacts. So, I'm someone that has these really long-term consequences from getting COVID, and I don't wish it on anyone else. And so it's that idea of, if you can kind of just share your experience, or if you can share why it matters to you, or if you can look at your friend in the eye, look at someone else from Gen Z in the eye, and just say, hey, I'm actually the same age as you, and this is what happened to me, that tends to work a lot better, because you start to realize it as a real person instead of just these statistics. I think we love to throw statistics around, but we also have to understand at the end of the day, we have to humanize our issues, especially in COVID. I think everyone's more irritable because we've been locked up for so long. And so if you can just humanize it and understand that hey, I'm actually looking out for you, we can really make a huge difference. But Gen Z really needs to talk to each other about it.
I love that, Elle. Thank you. I completely agree. It's vulnerability, right? Being able to share your own experiences to humanize a lot of these issues. So thank you. And I'm so sorry to hear that happened and that that's still happening. I hope it's something that will fade over time and get back to normal like society. But thank you for sharing, Elle. Zane, what are your thoughts? How do you think we can come together and stop the spread?
Yeah. Well, I love that as well, Elle. And I know, Sophie, you tapped into the micro things, right? So understanding the smaller aspects of it, what can we do to really mitigate change on the small level micro before we get into macro? And so just putting my business hat on here for a second, I think the biggest thing that we can do is really amplify proof of concept. And so I know Dr. Oz was here, and he actually, on his website, when I was checking it out, he had a picture of him getting the vaccine. And so making sure that we're actually moving forward with steps like this, so people can see what the connection is to the vaccine, what the connection is to the virus, and really allowing it, like Elle tapped into, to humanize the entire process. A lot of it right now is just seeing it on a television screen or seeing it on social media. And so just as humans, we don't really understand if it's actually real. There's a lot of misinformation. And so we're still understanding, is this something that's real, or is it fake? And those are still questions going on right now. And so really understanding, okay, if I see people getting the vaccine, if I see people getting the virus, then maybe this is something that is real and something that I should pay more attention to. And especially when it comes to authority figures, right? Like Dr. Oz, as a society, we are very, very obedient to authority. And so the more people we can get that actually get the vaccine or put themselves in a position where they can talk about what the credibility of the vaccine is and how it can actually help people, I think it's very, very important that we go ahead and just take a look at some of the micro things, again, that we can do to really amplify the overall what the virus has done to our country and the world, and get back to a place where we can be together again. Just exemplify unification throughout it all as well.
Love that. Zane, you're so right. I think it's also important for us to recognize that each of us has influence, right? Even in this scenario, we are able to positively influence our peers and our friends and our family members, perhaps to come together and make a difference with stopping the spread. So thank you for sharing that. Zion, what are your thoughts?
I think I just wanted to also talk a little bit about mental health. I know during COVID-19, there's been a rise of mental health issues, drug abuse, and a lot of suicide. And I think it's so important for us to also think about potential solutions to combat mental health or improve our mental health, I'd say. So yeah, just giving access to resources, being there for each other, and honestly prioritizing mental health as much as our physical health is also so important.
Such an important reminder, Zayn. Thank you for adding that in. Patrick, what are your thoughts?
Definitely universal agreement. Universal agreement, universal agreement. That's a major point because in today's day and age, we're seeing churches being closed down while clubs are being opened. It doesn't make sense. And as a son of a small business owner, I'm very passionate about this topic. It's not fair that small businesses have been treated unfairly while big box retailers are continuing to profit on the downfall of others. It is not fair, and it's one that we need to change because, as someone has said, we're inheriting our previous generation, and this is going to be a very big issue moving forward. We're going to see a lot of small business owners struggling to make it back on their feet, while a large percentage of our families depend on small businesses. They're struggling very much right now, and it just has to be universal agreement. If we want to change one thing, we have to change the other because it's not fair for everyone else.
Snap to that. Patrick, thank you for offering that perspective. I know we're running out of time, and I want to make sure we can get to each of you at least one more time. But today, as we think about the healthcare field and beyond, here at The Conversationalist, as you all know, we are on a mission to unify the world. We've talked about how we can unify as a generation to combat, our healthcare system inequities. We've talked about unification as it pertains to COVID-19. Now I'd love to take it a little bit further. If you were offering advice to any young person out there who is looking to find their voice, start some passion projects, get involved, and maybe even just starting conversations about these issues that we see in the world, what advice do you have for someone else out there to get started and how they can go out and unify their own communities? And anyone feel free to hop in.
Yeah, sure, I'll start off. So I was once told by a person that I hold near and dear to my heart, my dad, that you have to kind of go around the world understanding that you can never change minds, and the only thing that you can do is plant seeds. And so it's that idea of going around and planting as many seeds as you can. And it doesn't take a very big effort to plant a seed, to say one thing, to kind of, spark a different thought in someone's mind, or to kind of just hear someone out and actually just have that conversation. Like, take a deep breath and understand, okay, we disagreed, but I'm going to talk about the way that I look at it, and I'm going to listen to what you have to say, and I'm going to actually listen about that. Because if you can have that mutual respect and that mutual listening, then you understand that that's when we have the ability to plant that seed. And if you plant so many of them, well, suddenly you have a forest. They're all, all these different places all over the world, and you're doing many things, and all you had to do was start somewhere. And so look, I was a really quiet kid. I hated speaking up in class, all of that stuff, but it's a sense of, all right, I was given a voice. I can physically speak. So it doesn't matter who I talk to, but I need to talk. And I need to talk about things that I'm thinking about and the way that I'm thinking about things, because perspectives are important. And you only learn different perspectives by interacting with other people.
Elle, you are amazing. I don't know if anyone saw, but I was up late last night thinking about this, and I posted in the random room on Geneva this awesome graphic I saw about planting the seeds. We won't be able to see the fruit overnight. And I also really believe that conversations like this are the seeds. We might not completely break open our echo chambers or open up our own minds or change someone else's mind from the first interaction we have with a new perspective. And it's all about the seeds that we're planting through these interactions. So, Elle, thank you so much for bringing up that important perspective. Mason, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more with Elle. One thing I wanted to add to it was really listen to the person, hear them out. I was talking with a friend the other day, and one of the things I brought up was not to point fingers, but to treat people like people and not objects, and really listen to that person, what they have to say, because you can't form your own opinion until you have a diverse opinion. And until you get that diverse opinion, you need to be able to ask yourself, well, what perspectives aren't being considered here? What stories and experiences have this person had that have led up to them feeling this way or believing this? And what can I do to help them, or what can we achieve together if we come to a common ground? And I think that's what's so important to improving healthcare and just the state of our world right now, is taking a step back and looking at that bigger picture and seeing that we are all actually people, that we need each other and to rely on each other to make a bigger impact.
I'm speechless. I feel like everything you guys are going to share is like a mic drop moment. So I'm just going to keep us moving. But Mason, thank you so much. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, to speak a little bit to finding your voice and finding your passion. I think one of the most important things for me was surrounding myself with passionate people. Passion is really infectious. And even if you have a lot of different passions, like just hearing people talk about things they care about can really inspire you to chase what you want to do. And also not limiting yourself to the confines of what your future career is or what the expectation is for your trajectory. I know as someone who eventually wants to go into the medical field, it's a really, really long road there, and you feel like you can't make a difference till you get your MD or until you're a doctor or whatever your end goal is. And so knowing that there are things you can do right now that will actually make a difference, and not just waiting for, I guess, the trajectories that society's planned out for you.
Love that. I feel that way about even just being in this virtual room with all of you. Your passion is contagious. So, Melissa, thank you for sharing that. Zayn, what are your final thoughts?
I think I'd just like to reinstate what I said earlier, the quote of the energy is in the purpose, not the plan. I feel like people, especially when we're young, we're always thinking about what we're going to do next, how we're going to finish high school, how we're going to get into university. We're always focusing on the plan, and that sort of overwhelms us, and then we never really get to do stuff. But if we rather focus on our purpose, I believe that each one of us has a purpose in this world, and deliberately and be intentional about it. Sit down. I usually think about my purpose every weekend, sit down and ask myself what I was put into this world. So actually have these tough conversations with ourselves and think about it. And I promise once you find that, the plan just comes on its own. So just thinking about it like that, I think having that shift in mindset matters so much. And then when we're talking about unification, I think is thinking through empathy, thinking through diversity and pluralism, I think is just so important. And when there's someone that you don't agree with, think about it like this. Use your differences as an opportunity rather than a challenge, and really look into that person's perspective and put yourself in that shoe. I think that's really important.
I don't know why I'm getting like kind of emotional hearing you share that. That was so awesome. I think that's the name of the game, right? Shifting your mindset, channeling empathy and compassion into the way that we conduct ourselves and connect with others. And wow, Zayn, thank you for sharing that. You're amazing. Madison, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I truly believe that such an important step in finding your voice and unifying as a community is to find your spark and what ignites your spark. The passion that all of us have within us. Everyone has a different spark, but it is listening to others and those conversations that can make us grow as a community. And to realize that you really are never too young to make a difference, and there's no idea too small, and that there are no conversations not worth talking about. When we reach out to communities and conversations like this and mentors, like Dr. Oz said before, we can build a community with different perspectives and truly learn from each other.
Amen to that. Thank you, Madison. That was awesome. Let's keep sharing. I'm feeling so inspired. Patrick, what are your thoughts?
For someone that's looking to find their voice, they need to truly find what they're passionate about, because without passion, that's the pure motivation to be driven to complete a goal. In today's day and age, we live in a time that it's a game of ask and you shall receive. So many times people are looking to make a difference and find an objective, but you need to ask. And so many times when someone is given a no, they're taking it personally instead of finding a different route to succeed. I read a book just the other weekend called The 10 Commandments of a Deal Maker, that you should be taking a yes for a yes, a maybe, a yes for a yes, a no as a maybe, and a maybe as a possibility. So that's very, very important.
I love that, Patrick. Thank you for sharing. Pop that book into Geneva later. I want to check it out. Sounds awesome. Awesome. Valerie, what are your final thoughts on unification?
So my kind of advice for anyone kind of looking for their voice or trying to make a difference or trying to like unify their community is kind of just getting started. And then once you kind of get started and work on your passion, if you found it at that point, is like, I recall that like Zayn said it earlier, it's kind of trusting yourself and trusting your process and like balancing between planning for the future and over planning. Don't focus on like the outcome, just kind of enjoy the process of like kind of finding out more about yourself, learning about your community, kind of just appreciate kind of just getting to work on your passion.
That's such great advice, Valerie. Thank you. And Zayn, take us home. Any final thoughts?
I think this is what it's all about, just to begin with. It's these conversations, the community, everything starts somewhere. And I think that this is the perfect way to begin. In terms of starting conversations, I think Mason alluded to this a bit earlier, though, it is a two-way conversation. And so one thing I like to do when I go into my conversations is set an intention. So what's my intent here? Is it to listen? Is it to provide advice? What am I going in with, what type of mindset? And then based on that, we can have a more productive conversation, and it's not going to turn into an argument, or it's not going to be unproductive. And so setting intentions for the conversation, really understanding what you want to get out of it, is one of the best places to start. And then I think in terms of unification and what we can do within that realm, understanding things from a third-party perspective. So I know Zion touched upon empathy a little earlier, but one of the things I like to do, again, when I take a look at other people's positions, or even when it comes to healthcare and the COVID-19 pandemic, is think about myself if I was in that position, or think about myself if I was the family member of someone who was in the hospital going to COVID. What would my emotions be like at that point? And then being able to understand it from that perspective, I go, okay, maybe I shouldn't go outside. Maybe I shouldn't hang out with X, Y, and Z, because I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to stop the spread of the virus or help accelerate one part of the healthcare system. And so all of these micro things, again, lead to the macro idea that I think just puts us one step further to what success looks like for us within the healthcare industry.
All about empathy. And I love what you said about setting intentions, Zane. That was so awesome. I want to take it all in. Thank you all so much for being here today. What an awesome afternoon. I'm feeling so inspired by each and every one of you, and our team just feels so honored to be able to honor you for the great work that you're doing. So thank you for embodying our mission. Thank you for being out in the world and using your voices for good, and for being such important members of our TC community. So for everyone watching on your couches, in your living rooms, on the go, thank you for being here with us today. Let's snap it up for Patrick, Melissa, Mason, Elle, Valerie, Madison, Zion, and Zane. This was such an awesome conversation. And again, like I mentioned, if you want to have a conversation with any of these incredible people above me, below me, to the left of me, to the right of me, come join us on Geneva. This is where the magic happens. This is where we can actually practice what we preach and start having these conversations about real solutions, taking action, and bridging the gaps in the healthcare field and beyond. So thank you all so much again for being here today, and join us tomorrow for another incredible panel about the environment and honoring our honorees in that category. So thank you all so much. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.